Hey everybody. So this part of my testimony, the first part is a little sad. So I just want you guys to know that it happened a long time ago. I'm okay with it. It helped shape who I became. So please don't let it make you sad. My oldest memory is when I was 5 years old, and my back was against the wall, and my dad was walking me down the wall. And if you ever experienced this, you know that eventually you run out of wall and you hit a corner. And as my dad was walking me down, I sat on the floor at the corner, covered my head like that, and I just waited till he started punching me and wailing on me. And I think at this point in my life, I was pretty used to it because I don't remember crying. But I do remember this is in Mexico, so I'm translating from the language or the thought process that I was going through. I just remember thinking, my father's an asshole. He's just an asshole. And they ask kids, or we ask kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I remember thinking in that moment, I don't care what happens in my life. I don't care. Just as long as I grow up, I don't grow up to be him. I don't want to be anything like him. That is the first memory I have. At that time, I was a really good student, 6, 7, 8 years old. And while I was living in Mexico, I was doing so well in school that teachers asked my mom that I would skip a grade. First grade, I was asked to do that, then second grade, but thankfully my mom didn't let them do that. In second grade, though, the second half of it, when my parents came to the United States, I had to live with my grandmother for about 6 months. The first 6 months of 1987. And in that year, and those 6 months that I spent with my grandmother, it took me almost my entire adult life to be able to admit this. I didn't admit it till I was 35 years old. For my entire adult life, I've always felt ashamed because I always felt like those kind of things shouldn't happen to boys. But for the 6 months that I lived with my grandmother, she molested me, and I just never wanted to admit that because I always thought those kind of things are supposed to happen to boys, and I'm less of a man because that happened to me. I realize now that I was wrong to think that way and that it wasn't my fault. I was just a little kid. I was 7 years old. These are two factors in my life that have had an impact in my wanting to help people, my passion for justice, my love for justice, and my desire to help people. So I know they're not the funnest stories to hear, but they are the first part of my testimony. I'll share more about my upbringing next week, but I feel like this is a good place to start.